What's it take to get the team back up to where it
You know what?
needs to be?
That's a good question. The first thing we got to do is we got to play better, in some of our key positions. Just to give an example, we didn't make a play that could have got us off the field early on the defensive side of the ball. And then we come back and on the first snap after we give up a score, we get a bad snap. So, places like center and defensive end and places like that where you got an opportunity to make a play. When you get an opportunity, you got to make those plays. So, it's going to take doing that kind of stuff, consistently playing more, playing at a high level consistently for us to be a better team.
Given what's happened those first two games, do you have a feel of what this team really is, or this is the week you find out?
Well, I feel like we're somewhere in between the two for sure. We're definitely not as good as we were the first week. We knew that from the very beginning, but I'm hoping we weren't as bad. We aren't as bad as what I saw Saturday, but after looking at the tape, we were pretty bad. And I wish I could find a way to dress that up some, but we got a week to fix some of those things. The best part about it is we saw most of what our issues were Saturday, and Clemson. I got to take my hat to Clemson. They were really good, and they played well, and they beat us up front, that kind of stuff. But more than anything else, it gave us a good indication of those things that we got to do better. And at this point now, we can go on about the task and see if we can fix those or work on those things.
Against a team that's pretty much on your level, how do you evaluate Coastal going into this match?
Well, I think Coastal's really good. They're a top 5 team, top 4 team actually. And to make matters worse, they know how to win football games. The two games that make you really aware of their stature, some is, are the game last year with us. I mean, there was no way that they should have won that football game, and they had the will, and the ability to figure out how to get some things done. They score in lots of different ways. They scored in the special teams game last year to go ahead of us, and then had the ability to get a 2-point conversion to tie it up. Then they come back against A&T. A&T goes up on them last week, 30-24, and somehow or another don't make the extra point. I think their quarterback's helmet came off the previous play, and at that point, then they had to take him out. Well, the replacement snapper, the replacement holder, didn't get the football out, so they don't make the extra point. Kick off to Coastal, and they run it right back for a score. So they seem to always in a pinch, find a way, sometimes even outside of their regular offensive and defensive sides of the ball, to be able to find a way to win a football game. So I got to take my hat off to Coach Mosley and his staff. They do a fantastic job of having a good team, sound team concept, and they can beat you in many ways.
They had so much success running. They sort of had a balanced attack, so to speak. How are you going to be able to handle them rushing and then giving you problems defending the pass the first two games?
Right. Yeah, Alex Ross is one of the top quarterbacks in our division, and their offensive line is fantastic. So they can run the football extremely well. So, with a rushing attack that you got to pay so much attention to, it becomes extremely tough to be able to defend the pass. They can be balanced in a way that you have a hard time deciding whether it's run or pass in some ways, and they've got a good solid play action pass game as well as their drop back passing game. So, they do seem to be at worst, one of the top 2 teams in the top 5 teams in the nation. At best, maybe one of the top teams in the nation. So, every place you look, offense, defense, and kicking game, they seem to be really good.
When you look at these next 2 games, just how important is it that not just to win those games, but at least have a better showing? Because it seems like people are basing this team's their impression is what happened last week, that they figured that's just their team.
I think it's big for us to go out and play a lot better this week. We got to go out and show that we belong with the top teams in the country. Not only do we need to win, but we need to go out and show that we belong. And that'll be part of our mission. We got to play a heck of a lot better than we played last week, for us to have any kind of respectability.
How do you feel about leadership on both sides of the ball?
You know what? I think we got decent leadership on both sides. Lots of times leaders develop with success. You know, the fact that a guy, you know, or a coach or anybody can, you know, be able to help a team develop some good, solid standards, do things right, that kind of stuff. You know, is based around, you know, their past performance, you know, what they've done and how they've handled themselves. One of the deals we do is we name our captains at the end of the year. We actually go through the season with temporary captains of sorts. We have a weekly selection of captains, and at the end of the whole process, after we've seen how guys handle themselves and do things and do community service and do all kind of different kinds of things you can do to be a good person that way, then we select captains. So a lot of your leadership you actually get by what people's actual actions are. And you know, I think we've got good leaders on both sides. We got good guys. And our team, you know, the biggest issue with this team right now, to be perfectly honest with you, is its youth. You know, we got so many guys that are doing things for the first time. You know, our quarterbacks, for all practical purposes, are freshmen, young guys. You know, they play a little bit, but they're young. About half our offensive lines that way. Our defensive secondary is that way. You know, our kicking game is totally that way. So we got a bunch of youth on this team, and you know, the big thing you got to do is just keep them from trying to do sometimes too much, because they're so excited about wanting to play and be successful, that kind of stuff, that they sometimes get off the tracks that way. But it's a great group of kids, and you know, they're fun, and they were really, really disappointed after having gone through what we went through Saturday. But you know, when you get in these games with these high-powered style offenses, running a lot of plays right behind each other, not ever taking any kind of pause in the action, that kind of stuff. I think Clemson ran 94 or 95 snaps against us Saturday. Is that what it was? 93. Then, you know, you actually end up, I think what you get in your stats are all those plays that count. But anytime I get a guy to go out and line up, on our video, I'm pretty sure we had 95 snaps. Okay, so, you know, what happens is you end up, you know, exhausting a lot of your abilities, reserve strength and energy and that kind of stuff. You know, real early in the process, sometimes when you get past the point of return that way, you don't have very much. So we got too deep down our depth chart too quickly, which was you know, which was a little bit of a surprise.
How much did the offensive line's problems have to do with the fact that you didn't have Lehman?
Well, that didn't help any, but you know, the biggest problem we had early was that you know, we got a snap or two that were out of whack. You know, once we got that kind of had to be settled, we got Victor Ishmael in there. You know, I thought that we did better that way. The rest of it was mostly based around Clemson's defense. You know, their defensive front. Inside their tackles, we didn't block, and you know, that probably had more to do with it than anything. The fact that we had a couple of guys that have just kind of dominated us.
And where did the injuries stand at this point?
Better than what I thought last week. Yesterday, maybe the day before. We got most of those guys back. We got a couple guys that are sore. We still got a couple sore shoulders and some of that kind of stuff. But the only guy right now that looks like he's really doubtful is Alex Glover with an ankle, and he's going to probably try to go maybe around midweek himself. They're really going to work on him, try to see if we can get him going. But as of right now, I don't think we got anybody that's going to really totally miss the game on Saturday.
You went with a two-quarterback system in last week's game. Is that something that you're going to stay with for a little while?
Well, it looks that way. We'll try to. I think Colic is our heir apparent guy. You know, we like to get him to the point where he could really run the show and be a good, comfortable, you know, and energetic leader that way. But at the same time, when we do run into a little bit of a hiccup of sorts, you know, then we've got Tadarius in place and ready to go in a way that he can go out and spell it for a while and kind of give us a chance to settle him down, settle Colic down a little bit, and maybe even get a little bit of a push from Tadarius, maybe a little bit of a spark plug of sorts. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to play some of that by ear. You know, we really like to try to settle it and get them into the point where we can get one guy going, but at the same time, We got to deal with the hand we've been dealt right now, and right now it looks like we're going to try to play with both of them some. The percentage of which, how much of which, we still trying to figure out.
You said last week about you really not having an opinion about playing games against a Benedict. After what happened Saturday, do you have to sort of the same way when it comes to playing these guarantee games when it comes to Clemson?
Yeah, well, all of it's money driven. The Benedict deal is one where we try to put together, a classic of sorts where, we both universities have a chance to make a little dust that way. The Clemson deal is a money grab. Also, we're trying to make a few dollars that way. It is what it is. We try to do the very best we can of supporting our university and supporting our athletics program. Doing all we can to patch the gap that way. We got to make some money, and the things that we got to do cost a good bit. So at that point, we got to do the very best job we can of trying to, drive the revenue end of the ledger. So we understand that, and we feel that we have a responsibility to do the very best we can. But that's got to do with the game. We don't talk about that kind of that's not the kind of stuff that drives us. We see a football game there, and we go in there and we do our football game deal, and the rest of that kind of stuff we leave to the other folks.
Yep. How do you view the interest level in both those situations, Benedict and the Clemson, or anybody in that level of Clemson? How do you view the interest situation?
I think both of them got their good points and their bad points. I like to see Benedict play better. I like to see South Carolina State play better in the second game. So, in both cases, there needs to be an improvement on at least one of the sides. We definitely can play better. And as it was a little bit tough in this year that they called us. This team is a young team, with some immaturity and some of that kind of stuff that you try to, drive to be, a little bit ahead of where they probably ought to be right now as far as the whole scheme of things is concerned. So we're still working at trying to get them to the point where they can execute at a high level. But as this team grows older and we get a little more experience, I think you'll see a little bit better showing by us on our end.